Okay. Okay, so anyway, we're back to programming, and I sent the announcement out last class, which was the 5th, which was what day? Sunday. I put an announcement out there because somebody asked me about due dates and what we were doing in this, and I'm like, well, maybe I should tell everyone. So I put this out there, and I had reopened the week 2 folder with the video if anyone needed that, and then I asked, basically can I even speak? Wednesday even though I said I would assign it on Wednesday, you had already had access to it and stuff, but I said I was assigning the first 2 modules, and the goal is to have those done probably by Wednesday, and then we'll be doing 1 module a week up until, we might have to double up a couple if we're going to finish them all, because there's 16 total if you want to do both sections. If you didn't have them done, that's not a problem. I mean, those are more or less self-paced, and my telling you to have them done by a certain date is just my way of trying to keep you on track to finish those by the end of the semester. I'd hate anyone to have to sit down and do all of those back to back, because it's like 75 hours estimated. So yeah, if you sat down and did it all all at once, it's like 75 hours is the estimated time to complete, which isn't bad. You could sit down for a week and do that. What is that?
Just over 3 days.
Yeah, just over 3 days. You're good. I mean, I know I've seen parties that lasted that long. Just saying. I wasn't there or anything. Just saw it happening. So I didn't have any problems back then. Okay, so anyway, there's that. We are in week 3. Coming into week 3. Did I even put a weekly folder out there for week 3? No. Good. Let's swing it. Where did we leave it? Why am I having a problem talking? Maybe because I have not had all my caffeine yet. I actually wake up with like this much energy even though I'm tired. So my wife hates me because I can wake up and I'm all giddy and happy, and she's like, no, I can't handle you in the morning, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I can act all upset and grumpy, if that helps. When you get my age, you're just happy to wake up. So, it's all good. So anyway, we left off at what point last class? We were dealing with, we went over flowcharts again, stuff like that. Okay. So, the next step we take is we actually start doing some of this stuff in class, and following along instead of just watching, and getting used to the syntax and everything else. And like I said, during class we're going to start a project, and that project we're going to start really basic, and we're going to keep adding to it till it does less basic things. That's easy enough, right? So you'll see this holistic picture. Those modules out there, they take you little chunks at a time. So one problem potentially has nothing to do with the previous problem, just like textbooks. I'm trying to get us away from that, because that's useful as far as taking their exam to follow their steps and stuff. But for the purpose of actually programming, you're better off seeing the holistic picture and seeing how everything ties together, and manipulating data, stuff of that nature. Okay? Glad you all agree. Everyone agree? You are going to need to make a replit. I just say replit, but it's replit account. It is free. You can just use your Google login. It's not a big deal. There are things that I could put out there because I'm a professor. They actually have curriculum and stuff that you can put out there to give you guys stuff to do aside from that. I don't think we need to do any more of that than what we've been assigned, right? But if anyone wants to, there are people that might want to dabble with creating a video game with Python Play, stuff like that. These are functions in that this has, and we can put those out there for you. I think you might actually be able to see them yourself out there too. And if you can, I mean, this is a good website. This is a really good website for learning this stuff. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
This class was not installed. It happens to be a cluster.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What?
Oh, I said so now I'm here.
Oh. How do you think we're going to slow them?
I don't know.
Oh. Okay, I'm good with that. We were confused this morning too. That's why I didn't know if you saw something about a class move or something. Because there was a class in here right at 9, and it was never here before. And we're like, did the class get moved and I didn't get notified? I'm like, So when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. At first, I'm like, oh, maybe we were supposed to be in Sloan and I kicked them out. That would have been better. So, it's the power. You got to have the power. So anyway, that stuff's out here as well. Remember, whenever you create something out here, I'm going to show you again how we create something, and then I want to talk about how we actually submit this stuff, okay? First off, you are going home and, no, go to My Reps. And then you can create folders, etc., or you can just create a new replet, and when you create one of these, it asks you what language you want to do. You notice that there's a lot of different languages that are available for you. And just them having this is proof that HTML is a language. So anyway, just saying. That keeps coming up. I don't know why. So anyway, all kinds of different things. I started programming with this a long time ago, and it's really never used hardly at all anymore. But you go back to look at the generations of programming languages, and if you look at the generations of programming languages, I know it gives you that autocomplete thing, and I just keep typing because I don't trust the autocomplete. You know, it's like text-to-speech, you can't trust it. I sent a pretty negative note to a boss of mine one time because I didn't proofread my text-to-speech. Whatever. You got machine language, assembly language, high-level languages, very high-level languages, etc. And there are examples of them and stuff like that. I would say, because QBasic is actually command line driven, it's not assembly language. I would put it here, and then once you start getting into your graphic, like Visual Studio, Windows Forms, stuff like that, you're stepping up to that. And then you have this that's just fun. So there are different generations of languages. That might have been a question on Module 1. It might have asked like what generation Python was. At the end of the day, I don't know how important that is. They made me remember those things years ago, and I'm like, if I can't remember them today, I just know that C# is a higher level than C++. And that's because C++ is command line driven, well, not command line driven, but it's text. And then, Python, you can actually do Python at command line level. And command line level, in case, I should be careful how I say things, because I don't always, I make assumptions about things that I shouldn't make assumptions about. My wife reminds me all the time. Why can't I find what I'm looking for? Why don't they show the search down here? You know how there's usually a button here for search?
There is for me.
Oh, they have it hidden. I didn't want it hidden. Oh. There we go. It is there, right? Maybe that's why it's hidden. Maybe it doesn't work. You kidding me? I'm going to have to complain about that because now I got to figure out how I'm going to get to. There, we'll use this. There we go. CMD, if you don't know what command line is literally what you're looking at on the screen right there. It's just text. And you can change directories and get back to your root directory, etc., etc. But you can also perform certain commands and stuff. And if Python is literally installed on your computer, you can actually program at this point. So that's command line. That's like a third generation language. Anyway, just letting you know. I won't make you remember that, but I thought I'd throw it all out there. Okay. Actually, if you do install, because you can download and install Python on your system, on your own computer, and I didn't get that ready yet. That made me remember that. So, you may actually end up having to go in here to run some commands and stuff to install certain aspects or packages and stuff like that into Python. Just the way it works, because you can actually, is it python.org? Just so you know. And there are a couple things that you actually need for Python. It's not just, but you can download it and install it, and you'll see that it literally does follow like a command line base. Each one of these is hitting enter, but it's inside of a command line based system. So anyway, there. And then for a different environment, what the heck was that? Idle. The other aspect of it that for an actual editor, you can download and install idle if it doesn't automatically get installed by Python. I'm looking, it might actually be installed by Python when you install it. You used to have to do it separately. But anyway, that gives you a different environment, so you're not in command line. You'll have your own environment that you can program in. Problem is where Replit, when I do Replit and I run it, it gives me my results over here. Idle's not always that simple. Sometimes you actually have to create sometimes you actually have to create it as an executable or something of that nature and run it, or go out to command line and run it. So anyway, just throwing it all out there. This part right here, this is the easiest way to do things. They usually update the language and stuff, so we should be able to do most things, and go from there. Okay? Yeah, because they're dealing with 3.8.2, which is good. So anyway, any questions about all that good stuff? No. Oh, nice. Nothing? Zero zilch? Nada? Okay. That brings us back to programming. And let's actually look at this code and look at what we've already done and compare it and see what we understand so far. Okay. What are these? Yeah.
You're just creating variables.
Yeah. Declaration of variables. By the way, that's a important word, declare variable, declaration of variables. And I'm setting them equal to a static value at this point. They're, the CONT equals Y, results equals 0, number 1 equals 0. I'm setting them to 0 at this point because every time I run the program, that's where I want it to start. Okay. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And then here, we're saying while cont, which by the way, that's probably continue, just abbreviated. That's the problem with abbreviations, is I wrote this and I forgot what cont stood for until I read that line. So anyway, it's pretty simple, right? And this was the calculator thing that I showed you, but if we look at this, we didn't do while statements, and we will, and usually everything I write on the board and stuff like that, I'm showing you just so when you see it again, you'll recognize it at least. You'll be like, oh, okay, I got a somewhat of an idea. So anyway, you can have a block of code, and this code can be whatever. And while you say while, whatever variable it is, y equals 1, okay? While y equals 1, do this code. That's what it's saying. So until maybe the last line of code is input, and I can say y equals input something like that. Do you want to continue? So this block of code, the last line would be something like that, and as soon as I say no, it jumps up here and says, well, okay, now it equals, I'm going to say y equals y, and then you'd have y or n as an option, right? So if it did equal y, it would close that while loop and move on to the next block of code. Okay, so that's a while. Those come in handy. The other thing would be you have a for loop, because that's a while loop. And a loop is just that it goes in a loop, keeps going until something else happens. A for, and I'm trying to remember real quick. Basically, you're saying for, and for some reason I'm going to try something like that. Basically, what you're saying is for each change in y, we're going to perform this code. Well, one of the very first things you would do is you'd say y equals y plus 1. Okay? And is this really the way I want to do this, or would this be better as a while? I'll just start it as 1. So I say y equals y plus 1, and then I could do this with a new. But anyway, what you're doing with a for is you're saying for each change in y, we're going to keep doing this, etc. So for loops and while loops are good. You can create counters and stuff and that's basically what I did there when I said y equals y plus 1. That would be I could just do it this way, y plus 1. And then up here I'd create a variable called counter, set it to equal 0 first, and then we can create a counter, and every time it changes it will keep going until it hits whatever point you set it stops at. And then you can do, yeah, anyway, you get the idea. So stuff like that. So while continue equal because I'm testing, right? Up there I didn't put equal. You guys got to call me out on that. I'm testing to see if something equals the letter Y, right? So I have to use double equals. If I'm setting a value, I'm using single equals, right? So I've got to remember that I'm recording this and it doesn't get up there all the time. Double equals, always comparing, testing. Single equals is that we are setting, sorry. So I'm setting it to a specific value. And then we have print, which just prints a value to the screen. Here I created a variable called number1. I'm setting it as an integer, which the different types of numbers are I don't like the fact that they say that because it's actually wrong. We'll try this. I don't want to see that. It might be in here though. Yeah, they use float. But you can use decimal and stuff like that. Float's probably the easier way because I think float is their double because it just gives you the full number no matter what it is, and then you convert it however you want. That's usually what I use. I don't normally set something equal to an integer just because if for some reason there was just some minute number way out at the end, setting it to an integer, that's saying it has to be a whole number, right? Well, if there happens to be a decimal way out, it might actually error out and say, well, no, or do something you don't want it to do. So I usually use like a float, or in other languages I use a double because a double is it's the float. It can be anything, and then you can convert it to whatever you want. If you want it a 2-digit decimal, and so on and so on. Okay. So anyway, they bring up float, and they bring up where'd they go? So you got float. Where did they go? Yeah, just basically float and int, and I don't even think they deal with, it's always hard keeping track of these things because there's so many languages in my head. I don't think they even keep track of Boolean, which Boolean is just a 1 or 0. It's true or false. Okay. And I don't think they take that into consideration either, which they really don't need to because, and I don't usually use Boolean for that purpose. Yeah, so I'm not going to take us there. So anyway, there's that, okay? This is another good site if you need figure out anything ever, is Learnpython.org. If you click run, it shows you the results. It should show you the results over here. It says setting up workspace, so it's taking some time out on their website. But anyway, they give you some script code, you run it, it shows the value over here so you can see what it does. And then if you want to, you can edit it and see, change something, click run and see what it does, and it gives you 91 over here, etc. So easy way to test little blocks of code or to see how things interact. So it's a good site for that. We are going back here. No, not back there. We're going back here. So as you can see, I use integer. Enter your first number, so I'm saying it has to be a whole number. If you try to use a decimal, it's going to tell you off. Okay, and I'm not controlling for any errors, and we'll get to that later on when we're doing some major changes to programs, etc. But just like in Excel, there is a function built into Excel that equals if error, parenthesis, and then you can say A divided by B, something like that. So you're testing, you're dividing A by B. What scenario would I get an error? What can 0 not be divided by?
0.
Yeah. And what can I divide 1 by? 0. So that would result in an error, and that's usually a div 0 error. So you would usually get an error. Well, if that results in an error, well, what do I want to happen? So I do that. Then I say, well, what happens? And you can give a message. So anyway, that's in Excel. There are equivalents in Python and other languages where you can control for errors. And the reasons you would want to do that is especially troubleshooting. You're having a problem in your program and that. A lot of times it makes sense if you think there's a certain area that your problem is, control for that error. For C#, you're doing a try-catch. You do a try, then you have your block of code that you're trying, and then you have a catch that if that errors out, what are you doing? So, we're not controlling for that. If I set that, if I try to type a decimal in there, it's probably going to scream at me. And when I say scream at me, that's what I mean by scream at me. You're going to see a lot of this. If you've never programmed before, you're going to see a lot of this, and don't be deterred by it, because it literally tells us, track back most recent call, main, line 9 in module. So if I go over here to line 9, that's where my problem is. Now, if I look at this and I don't understand the difference between an int and something like that, okay, they actually tell me here that there's a value error, invalid literal for int with base 10. So it's basically saying, hey, we're asking for an int and you gave us something else. Okay, so if I run again and I put an A in there, I get the same thing, right? What if I run again and I put a 9 in there? Follow me? So literally taking things step by step, trying different things. You can't break it. Don't ever just throw out your code. If you throw out a block of code, you might end up having to type it back in. I don't recommend that. I think I told you last class that if I thought this was a problem line, they should just make a hashtag key instead of having to hold shift now. Don't you think? Anyway, what do I know? I don't know anything. So anyway, hashtag turns it into a comment, so I don't have to get rid of the code. And if I realize, well, that's not where my problem was and I still want that, there it is. Okay? So there's that. And then, we have our print statements, and we have input where we're asking for input. And every time you have an argument that exists, just like in Excel, if you've taken Excel, have an understanding of Excel, as soon as you get to an if, you can say equals if, parenthesis. You start your function with a parenthesis. You end your function with a parenthesis. Okay. So I have input. I have an equals here. I'm calling it an integer, so I'm setting this as an integer. But I have an input parenthesis. What I want them to do, close parenthesis. So it tells the computer automatically I'm asking for input. Therefore, what happens when I run it is going to throw on the screen, what do you want to do? and it gives you a blinking cursor instead of just a value. Make sense? Which I don't, actually didn't give me a blinking cursor in this, did it? Oh, that's why. That's why I stopped. Oh no, I didn't stop running. I didn't click over here. Okay, so they don't give you a blinking cursor in this unit. Most of the time for input you get an underline with blinking cursor, but I don't get that. So anyway, and it might just be this environment that they have. So keep an eye open for that. And then my next number might be 9. And do you want another number? I'm going to say yes. And enter your third number, 8. Now, the thing is I didn't ask it, okay, well, what do I want to do with this other number, right? So this isn't a very complicated calculator. Complicated calculator, I would have said, okay, now what do you want to do with this other number? Are you adding, dividing, subtracting? And then I would test to see, you know, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? And I would actually test to see the direction that it's happening and stuff. And put the parentheses where they're supposed to be. Because you want, like, and we would have to ask that question, right? Do you want these combined before you divide, or, and so on. So it can get really complicated really fast. I believe in keep it simple at first and go from there, right? So I say no, it takes me out of the program. If I say yes, it starts me back over. And the yes, starting me back over, takes me back up here. So I did all of this code, and at the end, do you want to continue the calculation? I say yes or no. And if I say yes, it goes right back to this while. If I say no, it kicks me out. And by kick me out, what I mean is that it just sets results back to 0 so I can start fresh. Okay? So, even though this seems like problematic in some ways, you know, foreign language to many of us, haven't seen it before, or started seeing it in this class and still uncertain, that's okay. At the end of the day, other things that we've done that are in here, the only thing new was that while. Now, after that, we have if. I'm saying if next num equal y, so do I want another number? Yes or no? And I say yes, then it's going to ask me for the number 3. If I say no, it's going to ask me the operation. Wait, no. If this, then oh yeah, okay. Ignore me. I said yes here. It's asking me for my number. Then, if operation equal plus, then do this. If it equal minus, then do this. If it equal, and I'm dictating, and this is the bad thing about this calculator, is it's absolutely atrocious, right? I'm not giving you enough choices, because literally I'm saying, well, if you want plus, I'm just adding all the numbers you enter together, right? If you say minus, I'm subtracting all the numbers from each other. If you want division, I'm dividing all the numbers by each other. So this is a terrible, terrible calculator, right? Glad you agree. So, but the if, elif, and else, this is a good representation of that. I can zoom in a little more, I believe. Maybe. Okay, so if is testing to see if something is equal to blah, blah, blah. If it's not equal to that, it goes down here. Okay? So we tested to see if something, then we tab in. This is what happens if that's true. We tab back out, we can do an elif, and that elif stands for else if, which in other languages literally says else if instead of elif. I don't know, trying to save 2 words, or 2 letters, I guess. But you're saying at that point, elif, I'm testing to see if operation equal minus. If it does this. If it doesn't, it goes down to test to see if it equals asterisk. So elif is just a way of doing basically nested tests. Okay, if one's not true, let's test to see if the next one's true. Let's test to see if the next one's true, etc. In other programming languages, you would do something called a case statement where you wouldn't have to do all the ifs, which are a pain. Okay, if you've done Excel and you know that there's an if function in Excel, well, an if function, I think they used to allow you only to nest like 15. So you could do if this, then this, if this, then this, if. And you could nest up to 15 ifs together. Well, if you're doing that many, you're better off doing a lookup function and compare values to another table type of thing. So this language, I don't believe Python handles cases still. I gotta look because they make changes to it all the time because it's kind of like an open source in some ways. And the answer is probably, unlike every other programming language we have ever used, Python does not have a switch or case statement. That creates the problem because you're stuck doing if. You can do fors and whiles, but you can't. Okay, so you could potentially do it as a class and call on it, but I don't think I would. So in other languages, you would say, instead of nesting all your ifs, you would have case equal, and then you'd say operation. I think I just spelled that wrong, didn't I? That's how you fix that. Right? That way you don't have to erase the whole thing. And then you would test to see if, I almost did it again. And you could have a list of them and it would compare and say, okay, so on. Actually, I don't even think you have to say equals. You're saying operation, case equal operation. And then I think you could just have this. You could have, I think I put that wrong, divide plus minus. And I think that's it, right? So you could have those as choices and say, which is less code, yeah.
I know that there's some websites where you can convert code from one language to another just by placing the text in there.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't work if you're doing case operations in HTML, and then you switch to Python, it would just fail the whole thing.
Yeah. Know that like a lot of times when you do that though, you create like inconsistencies and
I don't
things.
care. When you do the conversion?
Yeah, like
Oh yeah.
because like for example, it might not be the most efficiently done.
Well, and he makes a point, there's a difference between coding and efficient coding. Microsoft is very inefficient. Microsoft has always been very inefficient in programming. Macintosh is much more efficient. That's why for years and years and years, Macintosh has dealt better with their processing power than PCs. Consistently up until, I don't even remember what year, but up until recent history, more recent history, Macintosh used to have a lot lower processing speeds than PCs, but they had higher performance, and it was because their coding and that is more efficient. It's also partly because when you're programming for something, if you're programming, there's something called a kernel in computers, in programming languages, and that kernel is that basically seed of code that operates the system itself. And there's built-in commands in that tell the computer what to do when you hit a key, for instance, and so on. So Microsoft has always pretty much made that available to people, and you can program anything you want using their kernel, et cetera, et cetera. Macintosh has always held that a little more dear and close to the chest, and they're like, well, no, you're not going to program to our kernel. We're not giving you our kernel code. You have to write to this standard or you're not writing. So that's the way it always was. And has that changed? Probably. I do like the fact that they're going back to Motorola processors, though. They did so much better with Motorola. I don't know. Don't ask me. And yeah, that was programming language related. The answer to your question of conversion, I don't think you can convert a case at all to Python because it can't handle it. And it's not going to create a nested if for you because it doesn't know what you meant. So that's a problem. But I could see it going from C to another C, or C to Java, or C# to Java, possibly, at least parts of code. Yeah, so different language family, which I don't. Does conversion matter on the family of language? Because you've got your C-based. Python's not C-based by any means. Java is. Objective-C. We go back to the concept of Macintosh or Apple having their own programming stuff. They have their completely own programming language. It's C-based, but it's Objective-C, and I hate it. And I hate it because it just confuses me. Yeah.
Is it objective that's different from object-based, or is that the same? Isn't there two types of languages? There's like object-based, and then there's...
Yeah, object-based is your GUI interface, basically, where you're drawing objects and you're programming objects. Well, no, that's Forms app. I don't remember. I know Java's one. C++. Yeah, I know. No, it's not. Okay. I guess they're saying all of them are. I guess so. It's just a big difference in the way you program from this to this, and from this even to this. If you know C#, you can do C++. And if you know C++, you can do C#. The difference is that Objective-C, you're programming like a form. And you can draw the form, but you're drawing the form externally from your software. Where in Visual Studio, you draw the form, you double click on what you want to program, and you program it. In Objective-C, you always have to draw your form, and then you have to connect the code somehow. And it's just a pain in the neck. I don't like it. It's never been a favorite language of mine. And I won't do it. Do what you're good at, don't do those other things. So anyway, where was I before I did all that? Oh yeah, the case statement, the nested if. The fact that they don't have a nested if can make this very cumbersome, because if you have a lot of testing to do, you got a lot of if, elif, elif. You may actually want to sit down and try to figure out, well, how can I break that down into blocks? How can I chunk that together? Can I put things in a different order? Can I change my logic of my program so I have more efficient code? The number of lines of code doesn't always make it less efficient. It just, the number of lines of code doesn't necessarily make it more inefficient. I'll just leave it at that. But I can tell you that the number of lines of code. If you only have like 2 lines of code, that tends to be very efficient. But once you start getting a large program, the lines of code don't always matter, because some of it's blocked together in smaller chunks and they run as a separate unit and stuff. So, but anyway, got me? Follow me so far? Good. And then at the end, I'm just saying, hey, print the results, not a hard statement. Continue, I'm asking input, do you want to continue? If they don't want to continue, it does this. Because this here is in line with this, that's where the piece of code is. Okay? So you go all the way down here and you are asking, okay, print results. It still falls within that while loop. At this point, after that, if I hit enter and I tab back, that's where I can start programming new things that are no longer part of that while loop. Okay, remember how I said this is a tab-oriented language? You have to make sure that things are happening where you want them to happen, and that is where flowcharts actually come in really handy, because you can actually follow that as a map and realize, just like a street map, well, if I'm here and I need to make a turn, I go back one. Or if I need to make a turn forward because I tested an if or an elif or whatever, I tab in because I'm turning to something new. Make sense? So keep it simple. I like keeping this stuff as simple as I can as far as getting you used to it and doing some of the stuff. It doesn't make sense to make it difficult. Like I said, you can go out there and you can see multiple ways of doing things. When you search for help, you will find people that are literally just like, yeah, I'm this computer science nerd that and nerd's not a bad term. I'm a computer science nerd that just absolutely knows my shit. So what am I going to do? I'm going to show you that I'm going to flex my muscle, and I'm going to show you exactly how hard I can make it. And it's not always that difficult. Now, there are occasions where, for cybersecurity people, the shortcuts that people take could create security issues, but it definitely doesn't create a program issue. Okay. The program will run and it'll run efficiently, but it might create a security issue that has to be dealt with on the cybersecurity level, and that's easy. You just make sure that it's on the right layer and not, when you install the software, make sure it's accessing the network in the right layer and keep it out of anywhere dangerous. So, follow me? Good. I'm glad you all agree. So anyway, everyone go out to this replit.com or .it. Everyone go right out there for me. If you don't go right out there, I'm going to fail you. Heck, if you don't go right out there, I'm failing him.
You have to sign up first.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but the thing is if you log into your Google, or you can use your Facebook, your Google, whatever. I wouldn't recommend Facebook because they put all kinds of advertising crap out there. And it's free. You don't have to pay for anything. I wouldn't make anyone do anything that you have to pay for. I'm tired of that. That's why that online resource, we got it through Cisco, so we don't have to pay for it. Our goal is to keep costs down, because all these stupid costs are prohibitive to learning. There are people that can't even afford to go to college because they can't afford the books. They'll bomb out because they can't afford textbooks. I'm just saying. Some of these textbook companies are literally going towards subscription base, where you pay X number of dollars a month and you have access to all the textbooks in their group. And I'm sitting there like, I don't like that. How many of you actually like digital books? Yeah, that's about right.
Because they're cheaper.
Not always.
Yeah.
Okay, but it depends. Like Cengage Unlimited, like, is expensive.
Yeah.
For certain classes, but
Yeah.
other times, like, if you find, like, the book on Amazon, it's like $20.
Well, yeah, you can buy them used, right? But and you can find them that. Do you like reading them in the online book? Is
Well,
it just a price issue for you?
Amazon has online, like, through the Kindle thing.
Yeah.
So, like, 2 of my books for classes were only $20, where, like, in the bookstore, it's like $55.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Bookstore has an automatic like 25% markup or 20% markup. Because I found that out because I wanted to do something. I had to deal with getting a custom text or something. And the publisher it's strange because the publisher actually sells a book cheaper, less expensive for the student if I make a change. So they have to create a custom book that's printed, and it would have my name on it. It would also have the original authors, but it would have my name on it, and it would have components from multiple books and stuff like that. And I might be able to get you that book for $50. And let's say the original textbook is $70. Well, at the bookstore, that original textbook's going to be $90, but they're going to charge you $70 for the book that I had. Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't work out at all in students' favor, because what happens is if I do that, you can't buy a used book, you can't buy an e-book, you're stuck. And I'm just like, I'm to the point I don't like using textbooks, period. They're not very good. Most of them are put together and then they make changes here and there and put new versions out all the time, and those new versions don't have that much value. Other thing worries me about textbooks is they teach you everything in this like pure utopian environment. You're never going to have a problem, people.
What I've noticed is, like, a lot of times they'll just switch up, like, the questions that they ask.
Yeah.
And then, like, the teachers will assign you, like, the questions, so if you have an old edition, you have different questions.
Yeah.
So you're screwed.
Yeah. You're not supposed to have an old edition. You're supposed to have their edition. Yeah, I know. It's terrible. And the other thing that they do is they change the chapters around. They might change nothing about the text, but they'll change the chapters. Stupid. Just ridiculous. Don't do it. Okay, so everyone's out here now? Everyone got this? So you're going to love me if you got a Mac, because you can actually do this. Doesn't work well on a Mac otherwise. Just saying. Create a replit, and when you create this, we're going to walk through creating one and how you would submit for me to grade it. Make sense? If you don't submit it this way, I'll fail you. Okay, as long as you all agree. You want a Python replit because that's what we're in, and you are going to name it Elaborate Skinny Copycat. Don't name it that. Name it something that makes sense. Okay? Change that title of that program to something that makes sense. Because what if I say, hey, let's use the program that you made 3 weeks ago, and it should be called this. You're going to be like, huh? It's really bad for like Visual Studio. Students just continue. So they'll have Windows Form 1, Windows Form 2, Windows Form 3, Windows Form 5, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, good luck. And by the way, I have them that way because I use examples and I just program. And yeah, I still can't figure out what half of them are anymore. So what do I know? I don't know anything. So name that something that makes sense. We're just going to keep it simple today, and we're just going to do a hello world, and I'm going to put a plus in there because I want it to be plus, and then I'm going to create. And you can have it, no, it has to be public because you don't have, yeah, so, yeah, we don't want to upgrade, they charge you for that. So anyway, so create takes us to this, right? And it says booting replit, blah, blah, blah. And to get rid of this, you start typing. And the way that you get something to print to the screen is just like I used to do to get to print to the screen when I did basic years and years and years and years ago. It's literally the word print, parenthesis, quote, and then hello world. And what the heck is on my screen? Oh, okay. It gives you hints and stuff, so pay attention to what it does. It also does some autocomplete stuff, but if it ever misses it, you'll probably end up with a syntax error because that's what it's giving you is syntax. Okay? So, if I print hello world, hello world. If I do print hello world, it's just going to, when I run it, it's going to show what's over here in the screen. Now here's what I want as far as submitting code in a program. I want a print screen or Shift Windows S to snip whatever you want. You could literally snip the screen like that because I want to see the results. And on a Mac you're using Grab It, just so you know. Okay, so if you're on a Mac you're using Grab It, but I need a screenshot. Okay, and that screenshot, what you'll do is you're going to open a Word document, a blank one, and you're going to go here and you're going to paste that screenshot in. It shows me your code plus the output, right? What happens if the output is too big that it fits on the screen? Well, when you do that, what you have to do is this. You enlarge this side, and if it gets rid of code, that's fine, yes.
You just turn the document into landscape as well?
Not necessarily, because it's being controlled by this. So it's being controlled by this. If I went back to my other program, if I scroll this over, it's going to change the layout, and some of the things that we're doing, you're going to have to show it so you can show that it's actually lined up in columns, stuff like that. So you're going to have this as wide as possible to show that. But what I'm showing you is that I want the screenshot, but if this doesn't show up or it's not all on the page, etc., because your code is going to exceed that page, your output might exceed that page, etc., what I need from you also is you will copy your code, Control-C, and paste that below. Okay. And I can highlight that so I know it's text and it's just not just print screen. And that's important because I want to make sure that it's actually you and not your friend or whatever. Okay. Or you found it from someone last year or something like that. Maybe you're in a fraternity and you have fraternity files and they're like, I did that for Sanford, he never looks. Oh, if you're in a fraternity, you can't tell me there aren't fraternity files. I know there are fraternity files. I'm not looking at you. You think I'm looking at you. No, I'm pointing at you. At least there used to be fraternity files with papers and that for classes. And yeah, I don't know if that still exists actually. They probably do. Yeah. Rule number 1, don't talk about Fight Club. Rule number 2, don't talk about Fight Club. And just change that to fraternity, right? So, anyway, so I want the actual code and I want the screenshot. And what you were saying is, and I understand what you're saying and why you would feel that way, but I'm going to take you out here and that's not what I want. I want my rough guy. I'm going to see if I can find one that I did. This one. This is an example of how we can take stuff from an Excel file. Okay, I have an Excel file out here, and this is the code. So you see how I'm not going to get all the code if I do a screenshot? And if I run it, watch what happens. please run. Okay, now the problem is I'm still not wide enough. I have to widen it more to show my results, that I actually have all of the data. It's lined up in the columns, etc. Okay, so then I would, because I can see that it's already lined up, I don't need a screenshot that shows all of it. Yes?
You could also drag the settings tab on the left there, all the way to the left to get even more content on the code side.
Which settings tab?
Like files. So there's like another bar next to the code to the left of
Yeah, right here. Yeah, yeah, you can, but like that would matter if it got wider, right? This would be enough for me to see that you actually have it set up in columns and stuff, because you're obviously not going to get all of this in a single screenshot, nor do I care about that at that point. I'll have your code, I'll see that it's laid out, same thing, Shift-Alt-S, or just hit the print screen key on your keyboard, and it takes a screenshot of the whole thing. The other option, I guess, to go where you're coming from, would be to show the code, and when you do your Shift-Alt or Shift-Windows-S, highlight just the code, but you're still missing the scrolling part, right? So when you do that screen capture, it literally just takes a picture of what you highlighted. When you do print screen, it takes a print screen of the whole screen. You always have to be careful, because if you're doing a print screen of the whole screen, I can also see what else you were on, right? So if you're doing something embarrassing, make sure you don't do that number one, like you're watching Barney cartoons or something. Or if you're trying to pull one over on me somehow and getting stuff from somewhere else, which it's not really cheating if you're editing code to, as long as you're editing the code, that you're actually understanding it. To edit code in a way that it'll still work, you have to understand it. Okay, so yeah, just keep that in mind. A print screen shows the whole thing. And the thing about print screen is, I did a print screen, right? If I do a print screen, what happens is this, and this is a tip for everybody. I paste it in, that's it, right? I can crop it, and yes, I could change the direction. So I could crop it so I don't see that, okay? But the thing is when someone goes back out to your document, if they click on that, they can actually attempt to recrop it and see it's going to be there still. Cybersecurity issue, potentially. If someone had something up. Also, like FERPA, different things like that. If I do a screenshot and I only want the one little window I had open, and I just crop, and I had you guys' grades on my screen still, if somebody uncropped my image, they would be able to see your grades, and that's a FERPA violation, etc., etc. So, see what I'm saying? That's why the snippet tool's a better option, just so you know. Now, another way of accomplishing more on your screen, obviously, is zooming in and out, and that we didn't discuss. We do run into a problem when we talk about zooming in and out, simply because I've got old eyes. I need new glasses already. So as I go through smaller and smaller stuff, I can't read. It's just like your handwriting. If I can't read your handwriting, I'm just marking it wrong because I have no clue what you did. So don't you guys give me chicken scratch. Take your time. I at least try up here. So, okay. So that's how we're going to submit things. You're going to do print screens and copy your code and paste it into Word. And it's important that you copy all your code because if you're having a problem, number one, it helps. It helps me identify the problem, and I can say, hey, you know, this is where you're having an issue. Especially if you email me with a question. Don't just email me with a question. Email me with a question with your code, okay? What the heck is this? Did I open that? How did I get that? No way. So there's all your code. Now if you don't want it to be all colorful like that, you can try different things, right? You can choose how you're copying it. Make sense? Okay. So that's how we're going to do that. Last thing for today, let's go back to our hello world that we were working on. My hello world plus -1. I wonder why it gave me a -1. I don't know. Maybe that's my grade. Type what I'm typing. Put a space in there so, what the heck, there. Put a space in there so you have a space between enter your name and your name. If I gotta put that in quotes, sorry. Remember that it is quite interesting how this stuff works because it color codes things for you, which helps you track what a command is, what your text is, what your functions are, all that stuff, so pay attention to that, okay? So if that's this case, then and it's erroring because I forgot my quotes. Don't forget your quotes. Okay? And then we're going to do else. I don't think I need that. We'll try this. Actually, I do need that, but I used to offer to sell grades to people, but my price was too high and no one ever took it. But it still exists. If you give me 5 years salary plus a trip to the Bahamas, I will give you the grade of your choice. That's all I can say. The trip to the Bahamas makes me feel better about compromising my ethics, and the 5-year salary gives me enough time to find a new job. See how that works? Contingencies. Always think about it. Okay? So, this is our first wonderful program. Run it. Test it. You have to work for it. Test it again. You have to work for it. Why? Did I spell it wrong? Oh, no. No. Yeah, I did. We forgot something. Sorry about that. We forgot to set the variable equal to it. See what I'm saying? That's why you test everything. You test it so you know it's wrong, and you test it for the way it should be right. Okay? So now if I type in David, there we go. Okay? Now, at this point, I'd want you to do a print screen because I want to see that your code's working. You don't have to do multiple print screens to show me that it's not working necessarily. So, if you run into errors, I'll know because you'll ask. or it won't run, or it'll stop running at a certain point. Okay? So, yeah, we forgot to set the name, because here we had name equals nothing. Here I'm saying name equals the input. Then I'm testing to see if the name equals David. If it does, we do this. If it doesn't, you do this. Now, if you think about this, you could technically do a guessing game just from what we learned today. Right? Oop. Tab that in, tab that in, tab that in, tab that in. So now I'm saying while name is not equal to David, keep doing this, right? So we're doing our first while statement. So this is an example of how we're going to do things. We're going to build something, we're going to add to it, and we're going to keep adding to it. And we're going to make it better and better and more complicated and more complicated. Because if one of these days we're going to take and write all of our results to a Word file or a text file, the next time we might write it to an Excel file. Or we might put wins and losses in an Excel file so we can actually do some analytics on that Excel file and pull them back in. You excited about that? Yeah, I've got to lose this, not stopping. It's okay. It's okay.
It's gotta work for it.
Just you got to work for it forever. Your name was not David, and that's why. Because I'm also. We didn't ask for new input. We have to ask for new input. Do you want to, enter your name, and so on. Okay. So I think our last line of code has to actually have. I think we have to do something like that. We'll see what happens. And it might. Okay, so it stopped there.
Is it because you have it in the else statement?
Yeah, probably.
Have it back out?
Let's knock that out of there. But then that's part of, yeah, that's part of the while. Let's see what happens. Still not liking it.
Is it because it's like while the name isn't David, and then you enter the name David, so it's like,
Yeah, it closes you out.
yeah.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be doing that. That's my, I have to look at the logic. This is the problem because I wing it, so my logic's in my head, and if you haven't figured it out right now, I'm not always a logical person. I try really hard. But, so we've got a problem to fix next time we come to class. Okay? You have modules to do if you have not done them yet. You can go ahead as far as you want. You can lag behind a little if needed. So let's say you have a Greek life event or something and you're just going to take a long week where you don't have a lot of time to do it. Put it off till the next week, but know that you've got to get it done, right? The desire is by midterm to have the first 8 done. Yes?
Do you have to put a print statement after the while?
Probably.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, I should probably print you got an A, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to copy this, Control C. We're going to put that right there. I should be able to put it right there. I think you're right. So, you had it. Actually, that might be able to, that might be able to fall in the, no, it can't fall in the WoW. Yeah, it can. I'd have to test that. It might be able to fall in the WoW. Well, it's not like you have to put a lot of decisions in there. You can just say, no, it has to be out of the WoW.
What I did was I said while, so instead of having the name
Yeah.
equal, not equal David in the while statement, I said while Finn doesn't equal 2, and then it'll run through, but if it equals 2, and you put that after you get an A, so it ends after Finn.
So you did kind of like a count type of thing. Yeah. Well, not a count, but you use a different variable. So, but anyway, there, we've created a program. Feel accomplished?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you learned something new today? That's one of my favorite questions to ask. You still afraid? Anyone afraid? Anyone terrified of this stuff?
Sorry, we don't have a problem for next class.
What's that?
I said sorry, we don't have a problem for next class.
I'll find a new one, don't worry. I'm a lifetime of problems. If you want to feel better about your life, ask me about mine. Okay?
We'll do.
Okay. So, anyway, that's all I have for you today. Work on those modules, get those done. Like I said, if you fall behind a little, that's okay. The goal is midterm, have that first 8 done. The longer you put stuff off, the harder it's going to be to complete them. And they all have to be completed with at least a 70%, because that's what they consider passing. Okay?
I think you sent an invite out.
And as long as you get a 70% or higher, you get credit, which is 100% here. Okay? Okay. Go Greek! Take care.
Thanks.
Yep.
You don't want us turning in this one?
Nope. No, you did it here. That's your in-class assignment. You have those.
Online.
Yeah. And then you have to register.
I just trust that you follow it along.
Third Cisco class that I have.
What's that?
Can you keep it out real quick?
I can go back in.
I'll say a picture.
What did I do?
I don't
Look
know
at-
what you did.
Look at, so and you put your name here, you know?
One second. I'm not. He asked me real
No,
quick
you're
to
good.
put it up here. Not that. There. There you go. Okay.
So you see how here you put your name twice?
Yeah.
I just put an N instead.
Uh-huh.
And look at I type in my name. Just a million times.
Yes.
I just thought it was funny. I don't know why I didn't.
Professor,
L
do we have
not equal
exams in this
N.
class?
Oh, I can tell you what. Do we have exams for this class? Sure.
So we don't. All right.
I could give you exams. You want exams? I could give you exams. You're saying while it doesn't equal N, so you type. Oh, okay, so you're saying if name does not equal N, then you're doing this while, but the very first name you type in, you're saying if name equal Nina, then give it an A.
Why does it just do it a million times so?
I don't know. That I can't explain. It's because this else is outside. Hey, watch your language. You could offend people. That's a word I just pick up. It's like, whoa, what? Because I use it a lot.
The kid's not in here, though.
I heard an F-bomb, I thought.
Brady said it.
Yeah.
A million times.
What the
Yeah,
heck?
I actually typed my name in.
You did?
Yeah. Or I guess this is still.
So, wow.
But if I change it to Nina, it works normal.
Oh!
Does N mean something? Confused.
No, it doesn't mean something. I know what happened.
What?
It's the logic behind it. Because it's saying to do this while the name doesn't equal N, so it just keeps going and going and going. Yeah, that's why.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny. I was like, oh no.
that is funny.
What did I do?
I don't know. I never know.
I think
Yes.
now if you're logged into Cisco thing, like, I try to read, because I don't have a password for it. Like, I don't know my password for it.
Why don't you know your password?
Because I don't remember making a password for it.
You had to.
So do I need to, like, create an account or something?
Go on netacad.com.
Yeah, go through Netacad. Yeah, don't try to log into Cisco itself.
So I'm on this.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That we did.
So, anyway. That was exciting. Whew! How do I top that?
Do I have to, like,
Really
sign
don't.
up?
It's the
I mean,
first
that's-
floor.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
To get into that? Have you gotten into it before?
I enrolled for the class,
For the class on Cisco?
whatever the online portion of class thing
Then you should be okay. Let me.
is. Do I have to sign up after that, or do I just log in?
You should just be logging in. Let me.
Wait, I never created a password.
Yeah, maybe.
You had to. If you made it, well, tell me, did you make it? Did you make it this far?
Yeah.
And then you created the account? Did you try forgot password?
Yeah,
Did it send you anything?
yeah, it said, oh, it blocked the change. Please try to log in and reset your password after your account is unlocked or cleared.
Okay, so what you need to do is unlock account,
Well, how do I do that?
type your email address in. Let me go back. Right here, where you are going to log in, you see the button down here, unlock account?
Oh, shoot. Looky there.
That's right.
You're a genius.
I'm here to help you.
Maybe destroyed.
And if that's all it takes for me to have to be a genius, thank God. 'Cause I am not the biggest overachiever in this world. I have more college credits than anyone should have. Period. I've never actually did all of the math to figure out how many I have. But I know I have 60 graduate credits, and I know I have... Between my undergrad and graduate, I know I'm well over 200. Then my PhD, others, somewhere around 260 to 300, somewhere in there. It's a lot of credit hours. A lot of my life just kind of. Did it unlock?
I'm trying to reset my password right now.
It's got to be a good password. It's got to be one you remember this time.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 2 letters.
You can't do 2 letters.
Well, then I'm not gonna.
Try A at till you have 10 digits. See what happens.
Yeah.
You can't because you have to have special characters, I'm sure.
My name is Jeff. Why do they have to make it so complicated with like special characters?
Cisco is all about keeping things secure. That's what they do. They're networking. They.
Oh, do not allow anyone to log in or reset password for this account. Locked for too many failed login attempts. I just unlocked it. I didn't even try it again.
I don't even know what to tell you. I really don't.
I mean,
Try making a new account under a different email address. It doesn't matter what email address. Do you have a different email address?
yeah.
Yeah, you could try that. Try that and see what happens. This time make it a password you remember.
Maybe I do know it. Let me try it.
I can see if I'm able to reset it, if you'd like me to. I don't normally do stuff for people because I'm a mean person.
I'm gonna try it.
You know. You know, I'm out here to cause pain for people. I'm not here to help you. Stop.